are seasons. There are seasons of joy and seasons of sorrow. There are seasons of hope and seasons of despair. There are seasons of plenty and seasons of lack. There are seasons are an important part of our life. There are seasons when we can run like deer and antelope. And then there's a season to where we have to just take our time and make sure that our steps are sure. There are seasons where we feel so good that we could bounce off the wall. And then there are seasons when you don't feel like even getting out of the bed. There are seasons when you can't even rest with the phone ringing because you have plenty of friends. And then there are seasons where you feel like you're all alone and your back is up against the wall. We would like to believe that trouble is avoidable, that suffering can be suppressed, but the myth of being born with a silver spoon in your mouth is just a myth, because even silver tarnishes. Storms are going to come, but many times they come with an advance warning. I was shopping last night trying to pick up a few things in the store, and there was a lady just standing in an aisle looking. And I walked by and she looked at me, and I went to get some water, and she said, "Sir, could you mind reaching the water for me?" What I took for granted when I go in stores, I don't care where it is, I just reach up to pick it and reach back wherever it is. But she was standing there wanting something but couldn't reach it. And she said to her, she said, "Did you know that there was a hurricane or tornado warning for our area?" That let us know that we need to be making preparations. Because see, if you heed the warnings and make preparations, you can minimize many times the damage. You can't stop the storm from coming. But if you're prepared, you can minimize the damage that it would have on you. Now, I want to tell you that there are different kinds of storms. There are outward storms and there are inward storms. And it would make sense to prepare for both types of storms. An outward storm now will batter your flesh if you don't seek shelter. The recent hurricane storms have rocked and devastated our nation, sending thousands scrambling to prepare for their imminent storms. Things like water, ice, batteries, radios, plywood, and nails flew off the shelves like precious commodities. Possessions became meaningless and dispensable objects as thousands vacated their homes. Shelters filled up with young, old, rich, and poor who suddenly found themselves on a level playing field with a common ground called survival. The storm was coming, and these people were heeding the warnings and making preparations to survive. But not only did they suffer the experience of an outer storm, but they suffered the inner storm as well. And likewise, an inner storm can batter you just like an outer storm can. It may not harm your flesh, but it can wound your spirit if you don't seek shelter. Tell somebody and say, you need to seek shelter. You need to seek shelter. Watch watch this. When the hurricane force wind subsides and sun replaces rain and the storm victims emerge from their shelters, they assess their impact on their worldly possessions. Some gaze upon their monetary losses and cry at the storm's devastation to their personal lives. But at least they could say they were still alive. But others now looked upon the same devastation and cried tears of joy because they had a testimony that said, I might have lost homes, property, I might have lost things, but I still have my life. Hallelujah. I want you to understand that it is possible to have joy even in the midst of a trial. It just depends on who and whose you are and who you are trusting in. You can get other homes, you can buy new cars, you can get new things, but there are some things in life that money just cannot buy. That's why I come to the house of the Lord with joy, because I thank God that I still have my life. I appreciate the fact that I still have a portion of health and strength. I thank God for my family circle still yet being unbroken. I thank God because I realize it could have been the other way. Our nation is not only suffering from outer storms, but they're suffering from inner storms as well. Sanford, Florida, Brother Trayvon Martin was killed as he was walking back from his father's fiancée house. The only thing he was guilty of is being in the wrong place, the wrong time. The only thing he had was, I understand, a bag of Skittles and a sweet tea. I'm talking about storms. And the zealous neighborhood watchman is still haven't been charged with anything. Not only there was, in my opinion, 2 crimes. The first crime was when the young man was killed. And the second crime is when the person who killed him was not charged. Our nation is in a storm. We have in our political arena, we're going through political storms. Democrats against Republicans, and Republicans against independents. There's so much anti one another that they can't come together for the good of the American people. Storms. We have storms even in the church. While our young people are being killed and racially profiled inside of the church, I'm convinced that we're not doing all we can do because we are so busy against one another and not focused enough to see the problem at hand. No wonder the enemy is having his way because we're not together as we should. I didn't say we weren't together at all. I said as we should. And the things that are important that we need to be taken care of, we are too busy being distracted with things that really don't mean a whole lot. Somebody said we have storms. There are storms in our families where fathers are not being fathers and children are rebelling against the rule of their parents. mothers have lost the affection that they once came to them naturally, and our children are being abandoned and left to raise themselves. We give them things like Xboxes and Nintendos, and we buy more expensive TVs, hoping that that will entertain and occupy our children. And then we are confused when they come up and they are saying and they are learning things that, where did you get that from? Off the TV.